Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Upside Wealth podcast. Today, we are really happy to have you back. We hope the episodes that we've done so far, you've found them very engageful and impactful. And today, we are going to have quite an interesting topic. Quite a number of people have asked on this. When will you guys get to the investment opportunities episode? And today is the day. Well, it's good to mention that this is quite a broad topic. So we're going to have 2 episodes around this topic. And it's just for me to start by saying that some of the things that we'll be covering, we'll be looking at understanding money. For you to be able to invest, for you to be able to save, you really need to understand how money works. We'll be looking at savings, we'll be looking at risk because investment has quite a number of factors to it beyond just money. There are other things that you need to understand about yourself to be able to do it. So without further ado, we are going to get right into it. And as usual, I have with me Timothy Macharia. Timothy.
Yes, Jen.
Hi.
Good.
How are you?
I'm well.
How have you been?
I'm good.
Excited about today's topic?
Very excited.
Wow, that's really nice. When we talk about investments, there are quite a number of things that we talk about, opportunities. And opportunities is one of the factors about investing. We have other things. I've already spoken about understanding how money works. And probably we should start right there, Timothy. Understanding how money works. There's the aspect of making money, but there's also the aspect of keeping that money and how that works. So you can start us from there, Timothy. Yeah.
Yes. And one thing that you've said that is very lightful is that it is not just an one-way approach. Yeah. You have to understand what exactly you're doing. And by that is because I have faced a lot of questions previously. And even now I face when you interact with a lot of people. Being in my industry, you'll obviously have questions around investments. And one of the questions that keep coming is, how do I invest? Or is this a good investment? Or is this a good investment?
Yeah.
Now, to be able to diagnose whether it's a good investment, you have to understand, what are you investing for? Yeah. It is akin to asking, is this a good load?
Yes.
A good load can only be determined if it is taking you
To your destination.
to a good destination, or the destination you have.
Yes.
So if I ask whether Wayakwe or Uhuru Highway is a good load,
Yeah.
I can only put that in the context of where I'm heading.
Yeah, that's
so it is very important that you first describe, where am I heading? Where is that destination I'm looking for?
Yes.
So that if you ask me, is Mombasa Road a good load to use when I'm going, let's say, to Mutito and Day, then that is a good load to use.
Yeah.
So we can compare other ways that can lead you to Mutito and Day, but the destination is critical to that analysis.
Yes. So in simple terms, Timothy, what you're saying is what I invest into is a factor of why am I investing.
Exactly. It's a function of what are you investing for? Have you defined that objective clearly? But even a lot of, even to an important matter, you have put a very good questions, because money has 2 sides to it. And a lot of time, people confuse one for the other.
Yeah, true.
And the first side of money is there is making money. And there is keeping money. And people don't know exactly whether these investment approaches they are doing, are they for making money
Or for keeping money.
or they keeping money.
Very true.
A lot of wealth management, what we do as a profession, which is wealth management and a lot of personal finance advices, are content and advices that are tailored to add keeping money. Keeping money. We want to preserve your money. We want your money to be more useful to you and to have more utility, and not to be eroded by factors such as inflation, which will come to later.
Yes.
But then let's first start with, how do you make money? Because there are a lot of conversation I see, especially in social media.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to teach anyone how to make money.
Yeah.
And making money, no one has a formula of making money.
Yeah.
There is no conventional wisdom
Yeah.
of making money. Anyone can make money.
Very true.
Anyone can make money. Actually, there's a famous saying that says, a fool and his money are soon parted. The understanding of that statement is a fool and his money. So it acknowledges that even a fool can make money.
And has money. Yeah.
And people of all walks. So making money is not even a function of your intelligence. Actually, intelligent people don't make money because they are very risk averse. And risk is a function of making money.
Well, not always.
It's the truth. If you look at it from that point, we need to define, what do you need to make money and how do you understand by making money?
Yeah.
From my bold understanding, making money is a function of at least three things.
Okay.
Number one, making money is a function of risk. You have to take risks.
Most times are not.
Most of the times, you have to take risks. Because that making money is a reward. Even people who have gambled have risked. Yeah? Which is, there's no possibility of winning, but they win. Yeah?
True.
Even people who invest, if you look at the dollar billionaires of this world, the likes of Bill Gates and whoever else, and the owners of that, is that they risked a lot of capital to establish those money-making machines. The corporations of today, the Microsoft, the Amazon, people risk their capital. If you look at a company like Microsoft or Amazon, this is a company that went for 10 years without returning a shilling to the investors. What does it tell you? Is that people who today are billionaires, because Amazon has become this big company, is that they risked money because there was a possibility that Amazon could not pick up. The company would not rift. But they were patient, so they risked. Risking is a function of making money. You have to risk. More often than not, Joy, you have to risk. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to put some sacrifice away. And this risk is not actually measured. Don't be lied out here. The risk you are taking sometimes is blind risk. No one has a conviction that it will take, it is a 1 + 1 = 2. You don't know even what you're risking. It's a blind risk. It's an idea that has sparked in your mind, and you put investment to it, you put money into it, and somehow it works.
And I think, Timothy, even before you continue, it's good for me to mention at this point, because the examples you've given are talking more into investing capital, like capital outflow. You put money, you invest money for you to make more money. But I think it's also good for us to know that making money sometimes is not really about how much money you put into it. Making money or making money and taking risk could be you moving, for example, from one place of comfort that you are in to another. It's a risk. Risk is not necessarily bounded to money.
A monetary one. Actually, that is very important. Number one, even business is risk. If you're putting a business, is a risk. You don't know where the customer will come from. You take a leap of faith and you start a business. But even what you said is very important. If I'm going to change jobs, I work from company B, for my salary to rise. And if you look at the people who have risen to those corporates, they keep on changing jobs because you'll be added some few dollars or few shillings here and you move. That one, you increase your earning ability.
Yeah, very true.
Some people you relocate. You can go to another country. You're risking. It's a new country. You don't know how it is pans out.
You've moved from your comfort zone.
You've moved out of your comfort, but you have to risk. That is number one. That is function number one of making money. Is you have to risk. We are not defining what risk you are taking. Some of these family, you are even risking your family. People have risked things. You ask around. Even being in politics is risk. Politics in this country is one of the kind of jobs that will reward you numerously. I don't want to say how, but politics in this country has been proven to be one of the tools that can generate enormous amount of money. But I don't want to go into how it creates the money. But the truth is that for you to wake up one day and say that I am vying for a certain seat or I'll be in politics, even to be a president, it's a huge risk. There is so many of you. You don't know even where people who are telling you they will elect you, whether they'll truly elect you. But you take a leap of faith and you get yourself in the ballot. That is risk.
And I think, Timothy, let me just pause you right there and mention that even as we talk about risks, we have quite a number of risk profiles. It's good for us to understand that different people have different risk profiles. Different people have different risk tolerance ability, And it's important because sometimes I think when we talk from a financial perspective, talking about risk, people feel like this is a big jargon, like when you talk about risk being a factor, for example, of making investment decisions when you're investing in opportunities that we'll be talking about then. It's good for you to probably challenge our viewers that you need to understand as a person, what is your risk profile?
Exactly. And these risks will come to them in a while because we need to understand when we mean by risk, what is it? And how do you evaluate the risks? So we said we are in the making money part. So we've said it's a function of risks. Number two is a function of chance or luck. Chance. Some people call it blessings. Some people call it grace. Some people call whatever you call it. But there is chance. Chance, you cannot discount it. That sometimes you do something and you are doing the right thing at the right time, at the right place. For those three to collide, it is chance.
Very true.
So you cannot really beat yourself where you're not rich. Because chance, as the Solomonic wisdom dictates, that time and chance happens to them all. To people who are intelligent and to people who are not intelligent.
Yeah, true.
To people who are rich, to people who are not. To people of means and to people who are not.
Yeah.
Like, for example, being born talented. For example, a marathon. There's nothing you pay. The fact that I cannot even learn barely 10 meters, it's not my willingness. I can try as much, but I cannot sprint like the Eliud Kipchoges of this world, the Usain Bolt of this world.
Yeah.
Whatever talent you have, being a Ronaldo, as much as it's out of training, it's also out of talent. That is 1 in a million people. Being musician, having good vocals, it's a chance. You don't
do
yes,
anything.
you work on it, yeah, and make sure that you're the best. But there is that initial foundation that you have that is inherent. You are born with it.
Innate things,
It's
yeah.
chance, yeah. Being born possibly in some situations or in foundations of entrepreneurship is chance. So you cannot discount chance.
Yeah.
There are things that you'll do that chance will favor you.
Yeah.
There are things that you'll do, but unfortunately, without your doing or undoing, without your errors of omission or commission, they'll just not work.
Yeah, true.
It is not your doing. It is not anything to do
not
with
your
you.
fault.
It is just that you are not lucky.
Yeah, very
And luck is a part of it. And number 3, competence. People who have made enormous amount of money, Joy, in this world, most of them, or a good number of them, were, I don't know which adjective to call it.
Yeah.
But I think I call it, possibly they were stubbornly competent.
Yeah.
Think about the good names, the best scientists of this world, the Newtons, the Ford, Henry Ford, Northern's, Rothschild. These people understood what they were doing.
And I
And they
think-
executed with such amount of competence.
Timothy, that's interesting. Let me say why it's interesting. You know, you talked about number 2, chance and luck, which we said there's nothing you can do about. Then comes your third point, competency. Now, rarely will you find people who are born competent. Rarely will you find you'll find people who are born competent. People put time, people put trainings into getting competent. So I like what you're saying. Number 2 might not work for some of us or for many of us because, well, we either have it or we don't. What is innate or what is inborn. But then there's the other factor that you're bringing now of competency, which means, for example, if I have a skill, I can upgrade it, I can grow it, I can do something about it and make money for myself.
Good.
Yeah.
That is a good, very good observation.
Yes.
That competence, at least if you're not lucky, you can be competent.
Exactly.
Competence is knowing something so deep and so well, and you execute it with such amount of precision
Yeah.
that the results are just remarkable, rewarding. Look at even in Kenya here, people who are entrepreneurs, you can name them by names. I don't want to name names here. Yeah? But the truth of the matter, there are people who are good entrepreneurs and they have done so good in what they do, and they have become a force in the economic dynamics of this country.
They've built a brand
Even in the
around
world.
themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Think about which brand you think about, and there were people behind that brand that drove that. Otherwise, brand cannot be built on foundations of mediocrity. They have to be built on a foundations of understanding how the world works, and you intertwining and meshing yourself in that working, and that is how you deliver a good, successful company,
Yeah.
a good, successful job, because it is pure competence.
Very true.
Yeah. So those 3 things, you've said risk, chance or luck, and competence.
Yeah.
There might be others, but for me, from my
The
observation and from where I
foundational.
stand,
Yeah.
those 3 are critical in the journey of making money.
Money. So, well, let's pause right there. We come back to our viewers and ask questions. Because remember, we've said it's going to be very engageful. Timothy has talked about the journey of making money has 3 factors to it: risk, luck or chance, and competency. Now, at least out of those 3, at least 2, I am sure we have control over them. So to you, my viewer, and our viewer, probably, the question that probably then I'm going to pose at this point: how much of a risk taker are you? Look at just your life, the things you're doing. How much risk have you taken? Because Timothy has said, for you to make money, you have to move out of your comfort zone. You have to move out of your daily normal routines, because we usually say that it is only a fool who does the same thing over and over again and expect different reasons. So how much risk are you taking? Number 2, when chances present, because sometimes they do, by the way, Timothy, you might not do anything about it, but sometimes they present. How good are we at taking opportunities at chances? Or are we those guys who will just sit and give all the excuses as to why you cannot take chances? And opportunities always favor the prepared mind. So if an opportunity comes and you pass, you're not guaranteed it will be there. Sometimes you get a job and you start bringing complications of, oh, I can't move because where I live. And maybe that was the opportunity to make more money. And number 3, competency. How good are we at what we do? Because, I mean, you've said when you do things with precision, the most likely thing is that it's going to be rewarding. There are outliers of where you've put everything and nothing is coming back. But then again, that's where you're told, trust the process. But from a competency perspective, how many of us have built competences around the different areas of our lives? It could be a gift you have. It could be something you can do with your hands. It could be something that you can create. Competencies. And remember the last time when we talked about even our giftings and our talents, we said, rarely will you find yourself being the only one, for example, who has one competency. Most times than not, there's a replication. So for that competency to make money for yourself, how good are you at it? Yeah? And those are good conversations to have with yourself and with your friends. If you have a friend who has a competency and is just lazing around, or you feel like they are mediocre about it, how do you challenge that person that actually their competencies can make money? And it's interesting for me because Timothy will keep challenging me about things he thinks I can do, and I'm just lazing around about them. Sometimes I look at him, I'm like, dude, what are you doing with? Like, Timothy is extremely sharp. I'm like, so what are you doing about it, So it's important to have those conversations around it. Yes, back to you, Timothy.
And on that point you have raised,
Yes.
there's something I read somewhere,
Yeah.
and it is called the red car theory.
Yes.
The red car theory asks, when on our way here, how we came here or how we found ourselves here.
Yeah.
If I asked you, how many red cars did you spot on the roads?
Many.
Do you know how many? Like, can you give me a figure?
No.
You can't remember.
Because I didn't think about it.
Because why? Because you're not looking for a red car.
I wasn't.
But if I told you that for every red car you recognize on your way here, I'll pay 1,000 shillings. You could come with a number here.
Precise number.
I saw 5 of them.
Yes, very true.
The reason is you cannot identify that which you're not looking for. So an opportunity will pass light on your eyes. You don't know it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
You'll have all these reasons why you should not. And so you cannot even know whether it was there. Yeah? And you remember what I told you about last time?
Yeah.
Stimuli. You have to make opportunities a stimulus in your mind.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to be consistently tinkering, consistently thinking, consistently uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That is how you scale the wealth ladder. But now on the other side, that is making
Making
money.
money.
There is no conventional wisdom, but I think they are the function of the 3 things
Yeah.
we have discussed. Now, when you make money, the things that you've discussed of making money cannot keep money. And that is why I told you, a fool and his money are soon parted.
Yeah,
Once you make money, you need to keep it. You need to preserve it. Because chances sometimes happens once in a lifetime. They'll not be there presenting to you again
every
and
other
again. So
time.
when you've made money, whether it's from your job or whether it's from your entrepreneurship or whatever, even in
from
politics or
investments,
whatever you've done, how do you preserve?
Yeah.
And that is where we come in.
Yeah.
Managing money or keeping money is a function of almost opposite of what you've decided. You have to be extremely cautious of risks. You cannot be generous with risks and keep money. Yeah. If you want to keep the money, you have to manage your risks and you have to understand them. This is not blind risk we talked about when making money. You have to be cautious. You have to understand your risk appetite and some of the items that you talk when you talk discussing about risk.
Yeah.
Number 2, you cannot leave anything to chance. You have to understand everything. And that is why a lot of people who want to keep money, think about even billionaires of the world.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the ability to manage the money, because keeping the money is a different ball game altogether. You employ a professionals.
Very
people
true.
who understand the investment industry. People who understand the landscape. People who can weigh the risk. That is what you do. So the tyrants or the methods of making money cannot keep money.
Yeah.
And you need to know what you're doing. So when you come to me and you're asking, why should I invest here and not keep a business? Those are 2 different conversations. Keeping a business is about making money. Investing on the other side
It's about keeping that
is about
money.
keeping money.
Yeah,
and
very
so
true.
we are on different wavelengths. We have to listen together. Yeah. Someone asks, can I buy Bitcoin? That is not an investment. You're trying to make money. So you're taking the risks. It's a volatile instrument. It can reward or not reward, but that is it. That we cannot talk in terms of keeping money.
But I think, Timothy, that's very interesting. And I hope this is going to be a triggering conversation. Most times than not, I feel like we constantly mix the concept of making money versus keeping money. Because you're thinking, if I put more money, for example, if I have put a business and I have made money, how I keep it is by plowing it back to the business. Now, that's very interesting because sometimes when you do that and then everything burns, you have nothing left. And I think even for me at this point, it's quite an interesting conversation because I'm like, well, sometimes now thinking about it, what I do to keep money actually ends up making money.
Exactly. And there's old wisdom that talks about not keeping your eggs in
one basket. Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're a businest and it's making you money, that you've made money because you took risks and you've done excellent to earn that business. You need professional finance. We call it diversification.
Yeah.
You have to diversify so that you don't put all your eggs in one business.
Creating a portfolio.
You create a portfolio.
Yeah.
Exactly. That now creating a portfolio is part of keeping the money.
Yes.
That is how you say, okay, I've made this portion. Let me keep it aside because this business, even as it is, it's risky.
And I think it's good for me to mention at that point, keeping money is more about capital preservation.
Good. It's about preserving capital.
It's about preserving
and
capital.
The purchasing power of money.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, let's just agree at that point.
So those two things, you have to define what you're up to. Are you trying to make money? Are you trying
to keep money?
Some young men and women will come to me and ask, can I trade in Forex? Trading in Forex is not investments. Trading in Forex is taking risks. They might reward, they might not reward. You might burn, you might not burn.
We are going to have a lot of stones thrown at this point.
It's the truth. That is, if you want investments and the wealth management that professionals can help you, is keeping the money. It's not making money. No one has a formula, joy, of how you can make money. Anyone saying you anything is a liar. No one has a sure way. Actually, I make this joke a lot of time, that if someone walks from that door and comes and tells me, out here on the road, people are collecting money. I won't even wake up in this desk. Because what time did you get to come and tell me there are people collecting money?
And you did not collect the money yourself.
So anyone selling you the idea that they can show you how to make money, they are lying. No one has a formula. There's no conventional wisdom of making money.
And I think that's how people have found themselves in a lot of Ponzi schemes.
Exactly.
Pyramid schemes.
Anyone selling you, and I tell you this, anyone telling you they can show you how to make money, they are liars.
But Timothy, unfortunately...
Actually, people who are making money, they don't talk.
That's true.
If I'm in this very hidden way of making money, I've seen this very rare opportunity. You think I'll keep screaming around here and this is how we are making money?
I want to rip out of it myself.
Exactly. Yes. I want to make as much money as possible before the idea goes out. Is it? That is the point. So people who know how to make money, they are making money. They are very silent. They are like water. It is silent where it's the deepest.
But Timothy, let me tell you something, and that's the reality of life. So many of us don't understand how money works. We don't understand the concept of making money and keeping it. We don't even go to the nitty-gritties of what is my risk.
Exactly.
We are just doing things. It's gambling. We are trying this, trying that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you come to keeping money, which is the conversation that will continue in this discussion, and that is what we are experts of.
Yeah.
Is that we have to manage risks, and you cannot leave anything to chance. Now, there's a question that you brought. How do we approach risks?
Yes.
When we go to risks, there are two basic elements of risk. There is willingness, whether you are willing to take risks,
and the ability
to take risks. Now, willingness and ability, you can think of them like when you're eating. For you to eat, you must have appetite and there must be food for we to say that you're eating.
True, very true.
Yeah. So if you have appetite and there is no food, there's nothing to eat. So you can't be eating when there is appetite is there, but there's no food. If again you have food but no appetite, there's no eating.
You'll just waste.
I know you can remember a point possibly you're sick and you could not even eat no matter what kind of food is there. Yeah. So risk has an issue of willingness. Are you willing? But the other one is ability. What is your ability to take risk? And ability is a function of, do you have the resources to take risks?
So,
Can you pay the price? Because risk has a price.
okay, Timothy, can we put it this way? The level of risk you're able to take. Because risk can be very minimal or can be very high. Because we don't want to rule out the guys who are not taking a lot of risk. Yeah. As a function of the two factors that you're saying, willingness and ability, this is where you get to determine what is my level of risk taking. Backed by my willingness.
Yes.
And what I am able to do. Because we are not saying don't take risk. All we are saying is evaluate your willingness. You might be willing beyond your willingness.
But you can't afford it.
How much ability and affordability are you able to take? So that then it doesn't feel like this is a conversation for people who have a lot of ability and a lot of willingness. We want you to be able to, remember it's an evaluation of yourself. So whatever he has mentioned, he has not given a measure of it. He's just saying, how willing are you and how able are you?
Exactly. And then puts you on the scale of how much risk can you take.
Exactly. That's where I was going.
And more important, even to take this conversation further, when you talk about risks, you have 4 options.
Yes.
Yeah? You can avoid the risk.
Very true.
If risk is avoidable. Let me put that.
If you
can avoid.
If you have that.
If it is avoidable, there are risks you can't avoid. Like, let's say being sick. You can't avoid being sick.
Very true.
That is a risk you can't avoid. But there are risks you can avoid. For example, do you invest or not invest?
Yes.
That you can decide.
Whether you have disposable income.
Exactly. So, do I do A or B? So, you have discretion. Not all risk you can avoid. So, for risk you can avoid, you have a chance to avoid.
Yes.
Say, there's this opportunity, I can do it or not, I choose not to do it. Avoiding. Number 2, reducing. You can reduce the risks. Yeah, and saying that I can only risk this portion of my income. So I don't want to risk to get full exposure. So I reduce my exposure to certain risks.
Yes, what I can take.
And it's also a basic conversation. You remember like when there was COVID, we did a lot of things to reduce that. We could not avoid it because COVID was all over, but we used to reduce.
We tried to avoid. That's what I think we avoided and reduced.
Exactly. So you could not avoid because it's a disease all over, but you could reduce the risk of you getting infected by washing your hands, by wearing masks, social distance. That is, we are trying to reduce because it's unavoidable. It's a pandemic. But you can reduce the chances that we can get infection. So reducing. So number 1 is avoid. Number 2, reduce. If you cannot do that, you can retain the risk. You can say you have the capacity, you retain it. And you absorb it. Ikikuja, tutapambana.
Yes.
And a good example, for example, and even in the context of health, you see, you cannot avoid being sick, but you can reduce the risk,
by eating healthy,
going to work, working out, and all that. Driving well on the road. Those are the things you manage. But again, you can transfer the risk.
Right. Actually, most of us do that with motor vehicle.
If you cannot transfer, you can retain. So it's between. If you don't transfer, you can retain the risk because it's not avoidable. So what do? If you don't transfer and you retain the risk, if an illness comes, you foot the bill in the hospital.
Very true.
So it risks the rest of your investment. But you can transfer and say, I will buy a medical cover, possibly an inpatient, and say that whenever we are sick, as much as we try to avoid, if it gets to a point that we are sick, we can go to the hospital and get treated without exposing the rest of the wealth to this risk. So 4 things. You can avoid, you can retain, you can transfer, and you can reduce. Those things, you have to evaluate any risk on those parameters. And it's to consistently ask yourself, are you honest with the option you are picking? If you say you can retain, can you afford it? Because we say it's not about willingness. It's an issue of ability. Can you afford it? Because some risks that we sit on, the truth of the matter is we had the willingness, but we could not afford it. So when it materializes, we are so much exposed, it makes us, or it drives us to ruin.
And I think, Timothy, what you're saying, and it's good to have you that you're very clear on that. So if whatever decision I decide to take with risk, what is the implication? What is the implication? Is it something that I genuinely can take or not? Because from what Timothy is saying, one of the things that now is playing in my mind, that refusing to take a risk is also taking a risk.
Exactly.
You know?
But there are options.
Yes.
You cannot be stagnant and say, I don't want to take risk. Actually, most
And
of
also,
the risk, Joy.
taking a risk is actually also taking, like
Exactly.
it's
The risk is like God.
where
Okay? He is everywhere. That is the point. Risk is like God. It's everywhere. You cannot avoid it most of the times and most of the risk. And that is why I said avoiding might not be an option in a lot of risks.
Yeah.
So it's to understand then how do we approach it?
Yeah.
And within the 3 options I gave you, you can retain it, you can transfer it, or you can reduce it. Driving carefree on the road is a way of reducing risk.
It.
I might not really be in control whether I can get an accident, but I know if I drive carefree on the road, I have better chances. I'm increasing my chances and the odds that I'll arrive safely.
And also, even if, for
But
example,
even if it happened and I'm in an accident, I have a life insurance, I have a medical insurance, yeah, and my car will be paid. I have a comprehensive cover and I have health cover, so I will be taken to the hospital and the car will be replaced. So I have done that. I reduced the risk, and since I could not retain, I transferred
it. Yes, I agree. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I've never thought about it like that.
You get? Because risk and joy.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is, remember the conversation is keeping money. You don't want to expose the rest of your wealth to risks that can be managed.
I'm sure, Timothy, people who deal with insurance at this point will be really clapping. They'll be like,
Exactly.
yeah, you guys
You
are
don't want,
making
because
sense.
I can have 2 million
Yeah,
shillings.
yeah.
An insurance cover for my family, in terms of insurance, possibly
The
a comprehensive
premium.
cover, premium cover for 1.5 million inpatient or 2 million inpatient will cost me like 150,000. So I have 2 options. I can risk the 2 million that in case a family member gets sick, I'll pay this 2 million.
Utazame
So
your
I'm
2
risking
million.
the wealth I have.
Yeah.
Or I can say, I can transfer this. So I'll pay 150,000, I transfer this to someone else and make sure the balance 850 is safe. So whatever we get sick, this money cannot be touched because I paid someone who will take the risk over if they materialize. So that is how you think in terms of keeping money. Yeah?
Interesting. And risks.
Risks are very, very, you have to think about them. And what you do then is, you remember the conversation we had that part of the risk that you're taking is even changing the jobs. And I want to bring this even closer home because possibly most of us are employed. When you're working, for you to afford to move from company A to company B, it's a risk you're taking.
It's a risk, yeah.
Because in this company that you're working currently, you already have your history, you have proven yourself.
And you have benefits.
Yes. So changing the other one, every time most of the companies, they'll put you on probation.
For 6 months.
The interview that you did is not satisfactory for us to hire you, but we'll give you a chance for 6 months to prove what you said, whether you can action.
For ground, yes.
Now, in so 6 months, you don't know what will happen. Exactly. So you need, for you to have that courage to say that I can take this job, notwithstanding the outcome after 6 months, you have to say that I have saved some amount that if this doesn't work, it will land me to a period of time that I can look for another job.
Yeah. So
and that is called a buffer or a margin of safety.
Wow. Now you've brought us to a different thing altogether. So Timothy has moved from now just risking, because we've agreed we are going to risk. As part of making money and as part of keeping money, we are going to risk. But remember, risk has so much uncertainties. So what Timothy is saying, to cushion ourselves from the outcome of some of the risks that we will take, we need to think forward. Fast forward, look at probably the worst case scenario.
Exactly.
Like if this thing happens or if this thing doesn't happen, because it could be an outcome of something happening or not happening. How have I planned myself? And it's interesting. In my previous job, our employer kept telling us, you need to create what people call an emergency fund, something that can run your life for like another 6 months or a year as you try to figure out what to do. And I'm telling you, Timothy, this hits differently for people, for example, who've gotten redundancy letters, lost jobs. You had a guaranteed income at the end of the month and it's ended. So loss of a job, it hits differently For organizations that have closed down, it hits differently. For those who are unemployed, for businesses that have burnt down or just gone under, it hits differently. For someone who's got a medical condition or an accident that leaves you not making your income. And so, Timothy, as you talk about savings, I really want us to think through what Timothy is saying. Look at it as a buffer. Beyond what we like saying as Kenyans that, kona savings niko sawa. There's an ego thing that comes with saying, I have savings of this amount. Guys with SACCO amounts, I am a shareholder. I want us to really take this route that Timothy is giving us about savings as a buffer.
It's called a margin of safety.
Yes.
It's a buffer that might things not work out.
Yes.
I have a runway of about 6 to 1 year that I can, lay back to
6 months.
As I avoid. You can even have 6 months is, I don't know who came up with 6 months. What formula did they use? Okay. Runway can be longer, can be 2 years. The longer it is, the better for you. The more comfortable you are.
Yes.
And remember, from a previous conversation, you know what I said? So, willingness, you are there. We are willing to take risk. But ability, what affords you ability is the savings you have. Because they are affording you ability to move from one employer to another. And saying that if it works, fine, I'll be paid good money. I have increased my salary and my income. If it doesn't work, I can tap into this. So it gives you, remember, willingness and ability. That is where the definition of ability kicks in. That the fact that I have a buffer that can take me there, it allows me to take that job, notwithstanding that I don't know the outcome after 6 months after the probation period, or I don't know whether I like the employer or I like my boss. There are a lot of factors that
or
you
I even
consider.
want to do what it is.
Or I don't, maybe I might not even like it altogether. But you have to do that because you have that margin of safety.
Yeah.
Even engineers, and there are no people who understand about having margin of safety or buffer like engineers. If you think about it, people who make airplanes, they know that I cannot predict turbulence. But what I can make is a plane that can wither, has capacity to absorb turbulence. Or even the car. They know that I cannot control where the pothole will appear, but I know that this car has shock absorbers that might hit the pothole. The occupant will be safe.
Safety belts.
Exactly. So what you're trying is to create that safety mechanism because you cannot know when the risk will appear. I told you, risks are like God. They're everywhere. You can never eradicate them. And the best you can do is be somehow well covered by having those tools you're talking about. Savings, a buffer. Don't live, just on the line. Like you are like 2 months away from, getting broke or moving away. And that is a function of also standards of living. If you are being paid 1 million shillings and your consumption is possibly 500,000 shillings a month, you need possibly a 10 million buffer to assure you that might things not work out, you have a runway of possibly a year.
Timothy, that's interesting.
But if you have 1,000 shillings, if your lifestyle is possibly 50,000 shillings, possibly you need like 500k.
But then you see again, Timothy, that takes us back to the episode we had around money utility.
Money utility, exactly. So it has to be visualized on those lenses. Okay? So that might things not work, which most of the times life will always prove that things are not working, is that we have a way to adapt to them. I am a very, I'm a fanatic of workouts. I work out. And I like people who work out because it's a way of also reducing health risk. But one thing I've learned with my body, whenever I lift a weight, let's say I lift like 20 kgs, my body does not adjust that I lift tomorrow 20 kgs. It will adjust that I might lift 30. And that is why you have muscle pains. Because your muscles are trying to adjust that the next weight you lift will have to leave a margin. And that is how you grow your muscles. That incrementally. Yeah. So today, if you lift 30 kgs, your body adjusts that tomorrow you might lift 35 or 40. It adjusts because it does not know what will come in. That is what Nicholas Taleb calls anti-fragility, being anti-fragile. And that is very important.
Okay, let me throw in a joke. So can we say at this point that the opposite of fragility is agility?
Anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility.
Yes. Anti-fragility. It's a concept that for you then to approach life and because you cannot predict, life is uncertain by itself. Yeah, is uncertainty.
You know, Timothy, for me, this gets very personal because Aki, we have conversations with people and people have no savings.
Which is very
Or
dangerous.
you've seen families where something just happens and everything goes upside down. And let me tell you, I actually cannot get deeper than this. For me, Timothy knows it's very personal because sometimes things happen in life. For example, you lose a loved one and it was probably a source of income for you as a household or as a family. And you know, when someone is gone, they're gone. So if you literally have no margin of safety, it's disastrous.
It's disastrous. And even you if you are the breadwinner, you should know better that things can happen in your life, and at least you can reduce the risks and possibly buy a life insurance.
Unfortunately, Timothy, we live in times where we are living today. Tunaishi leo, kesho itajishughulikia. And I think we play a lot. And allow me just to pause. I think you guys have noticed my tone has changed because I think we play a lot with just how volatile life is. And I just wish we could take time and really think, like even remove yourself from the picture. I keep telling Timothy, I like doing that a lot, where I'm like, assuming today I'm not there, what happens? Like, for example, to my children, have I built a buffer for those kids
To even adjust with life.
even just to give them a runway for a year or two, or the minute I go, that's
At least they
it.
finish school.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And let me tell you, whether you have a child or you have responsibilities, it's good to have those conversations because loss can be in different forms. If today you lose your health, and right now with our economies, people are struggling, Timothy. People are struggling. That's why something is introduced and we all.
And there is, Joy, these old wise men sayings made a lot of sense. Make hay when the sun shines. When the sun is shining, when you're making that income, that is when you tap into it. Because when things don't work for you, don't have a chance to do
Tomorrow
that.
is not guaranteed.
But I read in class 8, I read, I think it was a quote in a book I was reading that even today I take it seriously. It says, hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Hoping things will work out is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Strategy, you strategize yourself. No players or hope or whatever. I'm not saying that people should not pray. But I'm saying that is not a strategy. That is why we are having this conversation to at least manage our life in a better way. Yeah, hope is not a strategy. So as we do all these things, I know you want to say that you leave your children to God. Yes, you leave children to God, but that is not the best strategy.
Let me even break it down further. Farmers have hope and faith that it's gonna rain. But farmers are very clear that if then it rains, I need to have planted seeds for me to get a harvest.
Exactly.
So let's just bring it down and make it as practical as possible. It's good to be hopeful, but you can only be hopeful because there's something that you have sowed and you're hoping that it's going to germinate or grow to something. So even with savings, you cannot hope that your family, your children, your future, your retirement will be okay.
The screen don't hope.
When you're doing nothing about it, it's a smoke screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So underline the words that you've said here. That when the sun is shining, when you're making money, can you save? Can you save? Have a buffer because it affords you to take even better risks, so to make opportunity to make more money, but also it protects you might things not work out.
Yeah.
That is the dynamic here. And now we go to the key discussions of this podcast today, which is investments.
Yes.
And I just need to introduce a concept of, we say that you have to define the objectives, then should determine the opportunities that you're taking. And I know that for so long, especially for people like us who came from the village, you can even tell from my tonations, we are from the village, is that there was a lot of insistence of the opportunities. The only opportunity I knew was buying land. You just buy land and hoping that it increase in value.
Brought Maguta
But now
Maguta.
I'm wiser. Countries that have developed and they have scaled the wealth ladder,
Yeah.
you invest in what we call capital markets.
Mm.
Capital markets. Capital markets is a market for capital. Yeah, and we're going to discuss each and every element of
Capital markets, yeah.
But I also want to preempt that capital markets is a function of a bigger market called the global
markets, yes.
The global markets, and because the reason I want to preempt this is because it lays a foundation of the conversation that we are going to have
on the products and
on the products and everything.
Yeah.
A lot of people have not understood how the global market operates or what it is exactly.
Yeah.
And that is even why there are a lot of discussions of even currently what we are having in terms of finance bill. Although we should be taxed or not being taxed. And not being a party to that discussion and just laying a context in how the global market works. Is that the global market does not care whether your children sleeps hungry or not. Is that capital chases the highest risk-adjusted returns.
Yeah, true.
People who are making decisions are not empathetic. Global markets and capital markets, or markets in general, are not empathetic.
They are not emotional.
They are not emotional. They chase returns.
Yeah, true.
And in the context of our country, I would like to even just lay a foundation or an understanding of what is happening. You see, Joy, money in itself amplifies our tendencies to overreact.
Naturally.
Very true. And that is why, if you're making a lot of money, you have a tendency to overspend. So you have these booms and busts, and they are historical. You can go as way as the 16th century during tulip money or 17th century. Booms and busts have been one of the most significant occurrences in the history of financial markets. Because people will always overreact. When things are working out for them, they will put all the money there. When they fear a little bit, they stamp it. Then they oversell. So there are all these volatilities. So what happens is when you think from that context and you think our country as part of the global markets, all countries, I think apart from North Korea, operate in what we call liberal markets. And there's no difference between your household and your country because you are trying to attract capital in your country, investments in your country. And if then your country is not in good shape, people will not bring money.
Investors don't come.
Investors will not come. They'll dump your securities, they'll dump your bonds, and you'll be exposed.
Yeah, true.
And the reason even why you're seeing that a lot of people have even blamed the IMF and the World Bank. Those ones are here to save us, to put us in good shape. Because when things were working for the last decade, when things were working, there were low interest rates, we overreacted, we overborrowed. And now it's time for reckoning. Yeah. Before, and I want to give you a story because I am a good student of financial history. When in the year 1980s, when global markets were opening after the Cold War and all that, the Latin American countries, that is Mexico, Argentina, tapped into global markets to borrow money. And what they did, they could go to America, borrow money from the top banks, take like 20 bankers, they want to raise $2 billion, they raise $2 billion, money is taken to their country, And because they were not very, what I call, very, very, very disciplined. What do you call it? They didn't have a lot of fiscal discipline. They spent the money in terms of consumptions and all that.
Current expenditures
and all that. They could go back to those bankers and tell them, no, we are not able to pay you. Can you add us more money? And you see what happened? The bankers by then, they used to carry the loans they have lent to another country at book value. So if the loans are, let's say, $100 billion, the bank does not mark to market. They'll carry that loan as at that. So if Mexico comes and tells you, or Argentina comes and tells you that, hey, we are unable to pay your loan. So as a banker, you are thinking, do I refinance them or do I go to shareholders and tell them we have to write off 10 billion shillings from our book? No. So the option is
refinance.
They refinance until it was becoming a systematic issue in the financial market. So what the banks did and the governor of central bank by the Fed then did, they democratized that, because you see there was a lot of power in 20 of them. So what they did is that they sold these loans to people. Your grandmother could own a piece of that loan through his pension. You yourself, you could own because it was listed. And people of different walks of life could buy those loans.
So you spread the risk.
You spread the risk. But what that did is that Mexico could not come and renegotiate with 1 million people.
Yeah.
So what did? If Mexico misbehaves, they sell off the debt, and we cannot
blacklist them.
We blacklist them.
Yes.
We sell. You see, a loan has a price, like a bond.
It's like a bond, yeah.
Yeah, it has a price. So if you are misbehaving, we sell, and we will score you every day on how you are handling your financial affairs. We will score you every day. How are you handling your finance affairs? And if you are mishandling, if your budget is not balanced, if you are over borrowing and all that, we will sell for 100. We will sell your loan at 10 shillings. Every 100 at 10 shillings. So they made them and they solidified that they could not refinance. So they made them more disciplined. And when Mexico came again, they realized I could not talk to 10 bankers now. I have to talk to 20 million people who are, I don't know, teachers' pension, individual investors, and all that. That is the same thing that happens. And even today, what happened in our country when you realize the shilling was really depreciating is that it's unfortunate that even before we blame IMF, our own, because a huge part of that depreciation was speculation. Our own were selling dollars, were buying dollars. When you buy $1, you sell your shilling, you are selling your country.
Your shilling, yeah.
You are the first person, you who is crying that the dollar is depreciating, you are the first one to sell your country.
But you see, Timothy,
because in the financial markets,
people are not
democratized.
But Timothy, people are not understanding the implication. And you see, that's the challenge with financial markets. Unless you really understand it, you don't understand how your day-to-day financial decisions and transactions affect the markets.
Financial markets are so efficient, they'll score you on a daily basis.
Very true.
Is a company performing well in the stock exchange?
You'll see
either buy your stock,
you'll see the rallying. Yes, very true.
Exactly. It does not give you. It doesn't care whether you have employees who have school fees to pay for your kids. They will punish you today.
You do a profit warning, it goes down.
It goes down. So even if the management is not, has corruption issues, we'll sell your stock.
Yes.
So when in the global markets, in context of global markets, you have to be in what Thomas Friedman calls a golden straitjacket. It is a one size fit all. So where kama ni mnono lazima ukonde. It has no issues to do with it is not like tutakushonea size yako. No.
When you developing country.
This is a size medium. Everyone has to fit size medium. So it will plus some. Okay, it will be a bit hard on some. It will be a bit, here and there, stretching on few. But you have to fit in that jacket. If you don't fit it, the global markets will come to punish you. And what we've been trying to do as the fiscal consolidation journey we are trying is to fit in that jacket so that we can attract the global markets to bring us investment. It will be more painful because if you're losing weight, even when you're learning, it's a bit painful. But that is what is needed because global markets cost you on a daily basis. So what is capital markets that we are talking about? This is the market for capital. And it is democratic.
In layman's language.
It is a market for capital. The same way there is a market for tomatoes. So here you have capital that is chasing opportunities. So we have a regulated part of it. We have unregulated part of it. But all those, that is capital markets. And that is the conversation that you're going to have in the next part of this discussion. Because we need to understand what are these opportunities that are available. And most of these, it happens in terms of pooled funds. We want to pool funds together. We chase opportunities. As basic as even your pension fund. It's a pooled fund that you contribute. Everyone in your company contributes and is managed by somebody. So and they look for opportunities that they can invest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the context of it. And the next part will be very exciting. But now, because we are now going to, so what after we have run all this?
Narrow down. So
we narrow down to action A, B, C. These are the opportunities you can put money.
Yeah.
And all that.
All right, thank you, Timothy. So we will be continuing with this conversation. Remember, I said it's going to have two parts. So we've understood how money works. We've talked about making money and keeping money. Timothy has talked about risk. He's talked about you need to decide whether you're reducing, whether you're retaining, whether you're avoiding, or whether you're transferring. He's talked about savings being a buffer or a marginal of safety. And finally, he has tried to break it down to us on what capital markets is and global markets, which is the bigger picture. So on our next episode, or rather on part 2 of this episode, because we are going to have 2 parts. Remember, I said it's a very broad topic. Now we'll be narrowing down to the opportunities that are there. Now that we understand our risk, that is determined by our ability and our willingness. So then, what do we invest in? Remember, we will not be telling you what to invest in. We just want to give you pointers of what is possibly places you can invest in your money in. So look out for that.